Hello, everyone. How are you? Thank you for joining me for day 2 of our 5-day career workshop live here on YouTube. So I have a question for you before we jump into all the fantastic content. Are you wondering how to use LinkedIn to enhance and market yourself online? Or maybe you're wondering how to get yourself out there using LinkedIn. So today's workshop is all about that. Now, if you're joining me here live, make sure you jump into the chat and let me know where you're from. We already have a lot of fantastic comments in there. If you are listening to this as the replay, feel free to comment below this video and let us know where you're joining us from. So where in the world are you coming to us from? So it looks like we had, and I'm sorry if I don't pronounce your name right, but Pragrethi or Pragreth, it looks like, is coming to us all the way from India. Cindy, hello. So glad to see you again here today. Thanks for being here. Coming to us from Cincinnati, Ohio. Looks like we have someone else here, and let me just see, where are you coming from to us from? Maxim is here again. Hello, thank you for being here from Israel. Someone's here from London. Fantastic, welcome. We have Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona representing. Woohoo, awesome. Karen, hello, how are you? Karen's coming to us from Maryland. Atlanta, fantastic. We have we're kind of representing all over. This is great. So we are going to dive in today and talk all about how to use LinkedIn to present and market yourself online. Now, before we get started, if you've never met me before or this is your first time joining my channel, my name is Heather Austin. I'm the founder of ProfessorAustin.com, and I have a fantastic Facebook group, the Career Club. And my goal here is to help you build your personal brand so that you can land your dream job and succeed in the marketplace. So this is day 2 of our 5-day workshop. And we're talking all about LinkedIn today. Before we get started with all the good content, I want to remind you to jump on over to worldclasscareer.academy. So worldclasscareer.academy, you'll be able to grab a free resume template, and you'll also be able to grab an interview guide cheat sheet. We're going to be using both of those things over the next couple of days, so make sure you grab that. The other cool thing is you will be on my VIP list, where I'm going to send you a special link for $100 off for my new program when it releases on Friday. Enrollment's not open yet, but it will be on Friday. For World Class Career Academy. So World Class Career Academy, worldclasscareer.academy is the link you want to go to. My team will put the link in the chat. And if you're listening to this as the replay, it will be in the description below this video. So let me show you really quickly. I want to just give you a quick preview of what results others have seen from using this free template. And this is just free stuff that is accessible to you today. The free template and the free interview guide cheat sheet. So I got a message from Stacy. She says, I finally have an interview this week for my first choice company. Sally says, well, I have an interview in a big company on Thursday. Randall posted and said, I've been invited to interview next Friday. Gabriella posted and says, thanks for the template. Another person posted and said, I have a second phone interview with a group of engineers. So this is all based on the free stuff that I offer out there on the internet. And then Scott says, had a second interview Monday, called back the next day to schedule for a final interview. Thursday went great. And I actually got a follow-up from Scott after this, and he got the job. So super, super fun results from all of these awesome, amazing people. So make sure you grab your template and the interview guide cheat sheet also to get on my VIP list. Okay, so let's talk about LinkedIn. Let's talk about LinkedIn for a second. Some questions that I get all the time about this platform, and I get emails every day about individuals using LinkedIn. And tell me if this sounds familiar. I have a LinkedIn account, but I need guidance on how to make it great. I don't know what to include and what not to include on my profile to make it more professional. And I don't know how to get interview call backs from my profile. So let me know in the chat, just give me a big, huge yes if this sounds familiar. Do any of these statements sound familiar? So you have an account, but you just need guidance on how to use the account. I know LinkedIn it's a heavy platform. There's a lot of intricacies when it comes to using LinkedIn. It's powerful, and I'm going to share some interesting statistics with you today about the platform. It's definitely powerful, but we also want to go out into the world knowing how to use it. Again, Pamela's here again today. Hi, Pamela. So glad you're here from Kansas. Robin's here from Portland. We have another person in the house from India. India's representing. Fantastic. Okay, so most of you are saying, yes, this is my situation. I have a LinkedIn account, but I'm having a really hard time knowing how to use it. So I'm going to share with you 3 solid steps today that will help you improve your profile and give you more confidence so that you can properly market and sell yourself on LinkedIn. So 3 steps for you today. I'm going to go ahead and show you the first one really quick. And again, if you have a favorite notepad or a favorite notebook and your pen and a pencil, get it out because you're going to want to take some notes based on what I'm sharing with you today. And of course, we're going to leave some time at the end for a quick Q&A. Okay, so the very first step to get our LinkedIn profile ready is to revitalize your LinkedIn profile. So what do I mean by revitalizing your profile? Basically, what I'm talking about here is having all of the main parts to your profile ready. And I'm going to actually give you 7 parts to your profile today that you need to have optimized. But before we do, I want to share this interesting statistic with you. Did you know that LinkedIn now has almost 600 million users? And 2 new users are joining the platform every second. Now, when I did a video probably about a year ago on LinkedIn, there were 500 million users. So in just 1 year, the platform has grown almost 100 million users, which is crazy. The other interesting statistic is that 98% of recruiters and 85% of hiring managers are using LinkedIn to find talent. So they're going to the platform and they're searching your profile and they're using key terms to find people to fill positions in their companies. So you want to make sure your profile is ready and in tip-top shape. So I have 7 parts to the profile. We're going to go through each of these today. And I'm going to try and skim through them so that you have a general idea of what to do when it comes to your profile. So the very first thing, we'll come back to this screen in just a minute. The very first thing I want to talk about is your profile photo. So do you have a good profile photo? Let me know in the chat. Do you have a professional profile photo uploaded? Just give me a yes or give me a no if you don't have a profile photo uploaded yet. So I get a lot of connection requests, and I look through if someone's added a note to me. I look at other things like their title, where they're currently working before I accept connection requests. And one of the things is I get connection requests from people without a profile photo or a headshot. And it drives me nuts because it's such a simple gesture to really put yourself out there and market yourself on LinkedIn. So most of you are saying yes, you do have a headshot uploaded. Fantastic. Thank you. Benjamin, yes. Maxim, yes. Pamela, yes. Cindy says no. Oh, Cindy, you got to get one uploaded. Let's talk a little bit about that. John says no. It's okay. We're gonna discuss this. So when it comes to your headshot for LinkedIn, you generally, it would be nice to have a professional photo shoot, but if you don't have the resources for a photo shoot, what you can do is grab your smartphone, use the back of the camera, and have someone just take a quick shot of you. Wear something nice, something that's specific to your industry. If you maybe a collared shirt, something a little bit nicer. Stand against a neutral wall, smile. Show your teeth, show that you're personable and have that person take your photo and then use that photo. It doesn't have to be professional. If you have the resources, it's super awesome to have a professional one, but don't feel like, you got to go out and spend hundreds of dollars to get a photo shoot done. So Cindy and John, I know you guys mentioned no. I'm going to be looking for your profiles. I'm hoping to see some sort of profile photo uploaded. I know you guys can do it. Okay, second part to this, let me show you my slide again, is our headline. So what we want to do when we're looking at a professional headline is we want it to be industry specific. So we want it to contain keywords that are that relate to our industry. Keywords that maybe hiring officials would use to find you. So let's say, for example, I'm a hiring official or I'm a recruiter and I'm looking for someone that's like a web or a graphic designer. I would definitely want to include those keywords in my title. Now, I get questions all the time about, well, what if I'm not working in that position? Or what if that's a position I want to go into, but I don't have a ton of experience? My recommendation is to tailor your profile to the position or the industry you would like to be in. And then you can explain inside the summary, almost like using a cover letter, to explain more about your career history and where you are. So you want to get specific. You want to have key terms in there that tell what your specialty is. So let me give you an example. Let's say that I was a graphic designer and I put graphic designer. But doesn't it sound better if I say graphic designer specializing in logo design? So I'm now adding like an extra element to my headline to really catch the attention of a hiring official. So make sure you really take a look at your headline. Okay, third part to this is your summary. So let me know in the chat, do you have a summary? Just give me a yes. Give me a yes if you have a summary on LinkedIn, or give me a no that maybe you haven't written your summary yet. Now, for a really long time, I didn't have a summary on LinkedIn. Believe it or not, it was years before I got a summary in, and I think it was the reason why is because I anticipated how much time it would take for me to write my summary, but I developed a simple formula to help others so that they didn't have to go through the pain that I went through to write their summary. But it took me a little bit of time to get to that. And I didn't have my summary for a long time. So it looks like Sola says yes, Maxim yes, Philippa yes, Cindy yes, awesome Cindy, glad you have the summary in there. Pamela yes, Benjamin no, and that we have a few no's and mostly yeses. So I'm challenging you, those that have said no, they don't have a summary, make sure you get one in there. Make sure you get one written. Let me give you a couple little a simple formula that you can apply to your summary. So you want to explain who you are, who you help, and how you help them. Now, yesterday's workshop, we talked about a 30-second pitch. This essentially could be your 30-second pitch. So if you want to go back to day one, yesterday's summary, I want to say maybe halfway through the workshop, we started talking about your 30-second pitch. And I give a couple of examples for you to apply this to your 30-second pitch, but you can also apply it to your summary here on LinkedIn. So you really want to talk about, what are you passionate about? So what are the things that you really enjoy? What part of your career drives you? So why is it that you want to be in this career? What drives you about the career? Talk about your expertise. Now, I'm always mentioning you want to include an expertise section in LinkedIn. I'm going to just quickly let me go to my profile so that you guys can see what I'm talking about. So this is my LinkedIn page, and I just really want to quickly jump over here because I think it's so powerful for you to see this in action. So notice I have a headshot, my name, my title, and let's scroll. Let's get to the summary here. So the summary is basically, I'm telling individuals out there in the world who I am and who I help and why I help them, okay? Well, the thing that I wanted to show here is, notice this expertise section. This is so powerful because these are keywords that individuals out there on LinkedIn might be searching for, that my profile will pop up for them. So let's say I want to get a job. I'm going to use the graphic design example. Let's say I want to get a job as a graphic designer. Well, I better have all the key terms that they could be searching for in this expertise section, logo design, web design, graphic design, user interface design, whatever design, all the software programs that I'm going to need to know, that is in the expertise section. Now, here's a couple other tips when it comes to your summary. You want to make sure that you keep your paragraphs short. So you'll notice in mine, I'm keeping them nice and short, very readable, bite-sized pieces. Incorporate headers and bullet points. So you'll notice I have some bullet points in here. You can even, if you don't know where to get these bullet points online, there's so many places you could get bullet points. But if you want to grab them from my profile, just go to linkedin.com/Heather-Austin. That's my LinkedIn URL. You can copy and paste this bullet point and put it into your own profile if you want to use that one. LinkedIn doesn't make it easy to use bullet points. Also, I recommend using headlines or headers. So notice I have a header that's called free resources, and my profile is going to be written differently than yours if you are a job seeker. So my profile is tailored basically to someone that, that like a business owner, but you can still apply these same principles. Now you do have 2,000 characters to use with your profile. I'm not sure if I recommend using all of them, but know that you can add that many characters to your summary. Make sure if you want someone to be able to easily reach you, you can include your email address at the end. So awesome. You guys are doing great. My friend Andy's here. I got to show him something really quick. Andy, I know you don't have one of these. This is my Wonder Woman mug. I have a competition with him when it comes to mugs. Now he always has this the best mugs. Thanks, Andy, for coming in and catching a couple minutes of this. Okay, and we'll take questions at the end. I know Robert just popped in a question. Philippa said, my profile is tailored to a business owner. Awesome. So if you are a business owner and that's the type of opportunities you're looking for, then that's perfect too. You can use your profile for that same thing. Okay, let's talk about the fourth part to your profile. So again, we're talking about the 7 parts that need to be optimized. The fourth part of this is your work experience. So again, write that down. Number 4 is your work experience, or what we would just call experience. I like to count volunteer work as experience because I do believe that demonstrates your willingness to, be a part of the industry and to take initiative. So your work experience on LinkedIn is going to be very similar to your work experience in your resume. Now, you want to list your greatest accomplishments. So these are things that are some of the top-notch things that you did or that you are doing in your specific positions. Now, let me just show you really quick. I'm going to jump back over to my profile so that you guys can take a look at work experience and kind of how I have formatted mine. So when it comes to work experience, again, this first position that's listed, this is my business. So this is all the things that I'm doing for my business. I kind of go against the grain a little bit when it comes to how to list your work experience. I don't use bullet points. The reason why I don't use bullet points is because I feel like it's an impersonal touch, where if you can talk about it in first person in a paragraph format, and I'm not talking about huge long paragraphs, I'm talking short, quick paragraphs. If you can talk about it in a first person format, it becomes a little bit more personal for the person reading your profile, and it shows that you have a little bit of character and style. So I like to use paragraphs. I don't like to see it when someone has just copied the bullet points from their resume and pasted it into their work experience on LinkedIn. It makes it seem like they didn't really go through the effort. So tell me in the chat, are you using paragraphs or bullet points in your work experience? Or maybe your work experience isn't even written yet, and that's totally okay. And again, you want to make sure, let's talk a little bit about this because this applies to also writing your resume. A lot of times people will say, Heather, I have experience from 20 or 30 years back. My recommendation is to remove anything more than 10 to 15 years ago. I kind of like to go for the 15 years. I'm okay with that. The reason why is because you want to show that you're fresh and up to date in your industry. So you want to make sure that that you're showing that you have relevant skills for this time. Okay, Maxim says both, or excuse me, Maxim says bullet points. Philippa says both. Russ is using paragraphs. Awesome, Russ, fantastic. Robert, no worries if you're using bullet points. You can always take a look at my profile as an example. I know when I was building my own profile, I always had to look at what other people were doing so that I knew kind of how can I make my profile look good, so that people can find me online. Okay, Pamela says bullet points. It seems like that is what I hear people refer to, read quick and fast. And yes, bullet points are a great way to separate items, and I recommend them for a resume. But because we're trying to have more of a personal touch with our profile, I like to put my work experience into paragraph format. So let me just kind of show you a few more, you can kind of see. This allows me to explain a little bit more about, what did I do? What types of experience have I, gained from that, so on and so forth. So good comments, you guys. Awesome. Okay, let's take a look at education and training. So education and training is a big one. This is number 5, education and training. So make sure you write that down. This is the next one we're going to cover really quickly. Again, remember we have three steps that we're talking about today when it comes to presenting and marketing yourself on LinkedIn. We are on step 1 still, but we're talking about the 7 parts to a powerful profile. So step 1 is revitalizing your profile. So that's kind of what we're focusing on here in case you're just jumping in and joining us. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about education and training. So this is one of the best places you can use to really stand out. Especially if your education relates directly to a position you're applying for. A lot of hiring officials will check there to see if you have the credentials and the training that they need. Now, if you have activities or societies, maybe you were in a fraternity or a sorority, maybe you did extracurricular activities, this is also a great way to show your personality, show that you've been involved, show that you're willing to do extra items, not just go to school and get a degree, right? Which is probably what most of us want to do. Add awards or honors that you've received. And then a good rule of thumb when it comes to your education, my recommendation is if you are more than 5 years out of high school and you have some type of undergraduate degree, you can list that. You can take out your high school in there. Let me show you mine really quick. Let's scroll all the way down. So in my education experience, notice how I have two different degrees listed, and you're basically just going to list the school, what school within your school were you in. I was in the School of Business, what your degree was, so on and so forth. Now, if you have maybe like a continuing education, you can list that here as well, and just get a little specific about what it was in your continuing education program. So that's kind of education in a nutshell. Now let's look at our 6th one down is skills and endorsements. So let me ask you this. Do you have skills listed on your profile? Have you listed your skills yet? This is a big one for people, and so is endorsements, because it really shows kind of some of your extra qualifications that you might not have listed throughout your profile. Well, we really want to list them in our profile, but just keep your eye on skills. So have you listed your skills and your endorsements yet in your profile? Let's talk a little bit about skills. Maxim says yes. Fantastic. Awesome. When we are looking at skills, we want to use a combination of hard and soft skills. So hard skills are really going to be those skills that you acquired as a result of some type of training, or some type of education that you received. So hard skills are going to be accounting, programming, sales, things like that. Soft skills are going to be things that are more of a like communication, leadership. They're not as tangible. You can still show that you have those by certain accomplishments that you've made. But soft skills are a little bit harder to quantify. I still think it's super important to have both. I think you need to list both skills. And in fact, I recently heard, I listen to business radio a lot on Sirius XM, and I recently heard that employers are, even though hard skills have always in the past been the things that they look at, they're now trying to focus more on soft skills, because it's almost like a dying art. Like it's hard for us, like for me, example, I'm in my home office talking to you online. I'm not touching a person or like in presence of a person per se. And so it's harder to develop those soft skills when it's just you and technology has almost pulled us apart a little bit. So soft skills are becoming a skill that employers are really starting to look at. So do you have leadership skills? Do you have oral and written communication skills? So you really want to focus on those as well for both of your in your profile. Now, what my recommendation is to list your top 3 skills at the top of your skills list, and then, put everything else in there, and you can reorder them based on, let's say in 1 year, I want to focus on a different skill than I have listed on my profile now. It's totally okay to change that up. Awesome. Sola says, I call the degree of life. Don't know if I can put that on my resume or profile though. Hey, you know what? There is a lot to be said about the degree of life. I'm a different person even from when I graduated college. So I get what you're saying. Okay, let's go on. I know we have a couple more things, and my goal was to get you guys out of here in 30 minutes. Recommendations is that 7th part to our profile. So when it comes to recommendations, write this down again. Recommendations are super important because they recognize or commend you for the work you've done. Now, this is what I say to all my clients and my students, and I'm terrible at this, but I say, if you're not getting recommendations, because a lot of people aren't necessarily willing to just sit down at their computer and type a recommendation, ask them to recommend you. So my rule of thumb is just reach out to those people in your industry, thought leaders, anyone that may be like a supervisor or a coworker, someone that was in a leadership position, or it could even just be a coworker. It doesn't matter, but anyone that can give you a good, solid recommendation, just say, hey, would you mind popping this into LinkedIn? You could even draft a recommendation for them, email it to them, and then have them clean it up, put it in their own words, and then throw it onto LinkedIn. So anyway, let's keep going here. I'm glad that we got through those 7 parts to our profile. We are going to move on now to step number 2 of using LinkedIn to present and market yourself. Now this step is a little bit off from LinkedIn, but what I want to emphasize here is you need to make sure your other social profiles are cleaned up. So what do I mean by cleaned up? And make note of this because this is super, super, super important. You want to make sure that you don't have stuff out there that an employer will find that they later see and say, we're not going to hire this person. They are posting pictures of themselves on Facebook at all these parties and not doing awesome things. So you really want to make sure that you really clean up your profiles. This is Twitter, this is Instagram, this is Facebook, all of those other profiles. You want to make sure that you get them cleaned up. In fact, I do want to show you this quick slide. This is recruiter outreach. So recruiters are using LinkedIn, they're using Facebook, and they are using Instagram to reach out to find people to hire. So you want to make sure that these profiles, Facebook and Instagram, are cleaned up and ready so that if an employer finds you, that there's no question that they know that you are a good, hardworking person and that you will get the job done if they hire you. So just keep aware of that. Now, the last thing I want to share really quickly is let's talk about building relationships. So I know we talked a little bit about this yesterday, but building relationships online is super critical. This is the 3rd step to our 3-step system here. And then I'm going to leave a couple minutes at the end for you to ask questions. So building relationships. What do I mean by building relationships? Building relationships online is super important. We talked a little bit about online networking and in-person networking yesterday. But let's dive a little bit deeper into how you can actually build a relationship on LinkedIn. So when I was first creating my LinkedIn profile, I created it years ago, did nothing with it because LinkedIn wasn't a big, huge marketing tool for employers like it is now. Then I thought, oh, I better start getting serious about my LinkedIn profile because people are actually starting to use LinkedIn. So I started, figuring out how do I make my profile great? How do I contact people, this and that, and just kind of figuring out what it was that I could do to make my profile stand out a little bit more. Well, I hardly had any connections. I'm like, oh, I have 100 connections. I better start working on my connections. So what I ended up doing, and this is what I mean by building relationships, is I reached out to family members, friends, coworkers. I even reached out to people that worked for the company that I worked for that I'd never met in person. And I just sent them a quick message and said, hey, this is who I am. I noticed that you also work for this company. Can we connect on LinkedIn? And I always made sure, and I still do this if I ever connect with anyone, that I give them a nice personalized message because spam is so crazy out there online. And you don't want to fill your LinkedIn profile with a bunch of connections that are going to lead to nowhere. So building those relationships is so, so, so important. Now you can private email people if you need to. You can direct message them on some of the other social platforms, but really just making sure that you are building those relationships. The other thing that I want to leave off here today is join groups. So I know we talked about this again yesterday, but this is such a heavy topic, and I feel like more people need to get involved online and really get to know each other. So join groups. These are groups that could be on Facebook, it could be on LinkedIn. I recently read an article that LinkedIn is going to, and hopefully this is still accurate, they're going to be putting more into groups. So I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but Facebook really has a huge emphasis on groups. If you're in a Facebook group, in fact, you can jump into the Career Club. The link to that is below this. It's a free group. You do have to answer some questions. If you don't answer the questions, you don't get to come into the group. So there's some questions that are like, hey, how can I help you? Why do you want to be in this group? But that group, that's an example of a group, and a lot of those individuals in there have really got to know each other and connected, and job opportunities have been found because of that. So my last thing that I want to say here is make sure you join groups, either on LinkedIn or on Facebook, and start connecting with people. And don't do it in a spammy way. Do it in a real meaningful fashion. So I am super happy that you guys joined me today. If you have a question, my team is in the chat, so they have popped some questions through to me. What I want to do is I'm going to pop you back to this page really quick. I want to make sure that you get your free template and your free interview guide cheat sheet. So go to worldclasscareer.academy. Again, the link is in the description of this video to grab these two things. We're going to be using them throughout the rest of the workshop. And in fact, tomorrow we are going to be talking all about how to interview with confidence and ease. So I know that a lot of you had this. This was one of the main topics that you wanted me to discuss during this workshop, is how to interview with confidence and ease. So I have some very solid action steps that you can take today that I will be sharing with you tomorrow, basically during our career workshop. So make sure you join me tomorrow. Now, one last thing before I start taking questions. What has been your biggest takeaway here today? What is one thing, and just pipe this into the chat. And if you are listening to this as a replay, feel free to pop that into the comments below the video. What is the biggest, your biggest takeaway today? And while you're typing that, I'm going to go ahead and answer some questions. So it looks like Citizen Buddy, I don't know if you're here today. Richard, he's on the other end of our chat. Richard, let me know if you saw him in here. I'm not sure if he's here today. So he popped a question in yesterday, and I wanted to make sure that I answer this. He said, I feel like recruiters often get annoyed with messages on LinkedIn. Is there any truth in that? And here's the thing. A recruiter is a recruiter. In fact, my sister-in-law is like a super fancy dancy recruiter, and she blows it out of the park. She does amazing with what she does, and that's their job. So my recommendation, Citizen Buddy, is don't look at it as I'm annoying them, but look at it in terms of how can I make sure this message that I'm typing to them is really meaningful and that I can really get my point across rather than it being spammy for them, because they're probably getting hundreds of messages a day. Make it a meaningful interaction with them. And really that's their job. They are looking for talent. They are looking for the best possible individual. And what is it that you can do to stand out on their radar? Okay, another question. Let's see. So Robert, hello. Robert's posted a couple questions in here. Robert, very similar to Citizen Buddy's question yesterday. Robert says, how do you avoid LinkedIn spam and shady recruiters? Oh, this is a tough one, and I'm not sure if I have an ultimate solution to this. You could, inside your career interest section on LinkedIn, you could always just keep it set that you're not open for new opportunities. Now, LinkedIn does have that section where you can set that you're open or not open. So however you decide to have that, but it's kind of hard to, if someone reaches out to you and it's a spam or a shady recruiter, ask them for, some of their qualifications or maybe some of the companies they've worked for before. I know because I get spam messages all the time. And it sometimes feels like people are just copying and pasting and just putting my name in the message. And to me, that's really unauthentic. So just keep your eye on that. And Robert asked another question, is a profile background image important? I like a profile background image. In fact, I have one on my profile. It's just a very basic, let me show you it really quick. It's just a very basic background photo. I don't think it's as important as some people might think. I don't think, there are some LinkedIn influencers that don't have one. It's just that default background. So I think it depends on your industry. I think it depends on your personality. For me, I like to have a little bit of color and, something different than that generic background, but don't spend a whole lot of time on it. You definitely don't need to spend a ton of time on that. So good question, Robert. Okay, another question from Robert, and then I'll get to a couple others. Says, how do you represent a job gap or unemployment in your LinkedIn profile? So this is such a good question, Robert. We're actually going to be covering this day 5 of our workshop when we talk about resume writing, and it's very, very, very similar to your LinkedIn profile. Now, my recommendation would be, and I recommend this with anyone with a resume, that they have to display some type of gap or, there's an unemployment, something that has gone on. You could always explain it a little bit in your summary. So you could have a quick sentence that's, talks about this gap in my employment was because I had to take care of my parent, or I had to, a lot of times you'll find women or even men that when they have children, they take 2 to 3, maybe 4 years off, and now they're ready to get back into the industry. So you can explain that a little bit in your summary, but you're going to have to just list it how it is, and then beef up your profile with other things like skills, endorsements, recommendations. Networking, again, is a big, huge part to this, to really get them to see through that gap. Good question, Robert. Kathy says, I have a big career gap, so I'm very skeptical about people taking it negatively. So Kathy, thanks for asking that. Very similar to what Robert's question was. And we'll talk more about this on day 5 when we go through the resume, the whole entire resume writing process. It's going to be very similar again to that. So good question. Let's see. Okay. A couple more questions. Jitesh, I think is how you say your name. It says, most profiles on LinkedIn for telecom domain are pretty boring. LinkedIn is not like an exciting topic. Well, okay, for me, because I like LinkedIn, but I think you'll find that it's not like a super pizzazzy, It's not like Instagram or something, right? Okay, and he goes on to say, how do I make my profile interesting and how do I take references? How do I take references from? I'm not sure what you mean by that part, but in terms of making your profile interesting, I like to add media to my profile. So let me show you again really quickly. So on my profile here, you'll notice that if you scroll to the bottom, I've added some media. Now, not everyone has videos like this that they can add, and I totally get that. But if you have any sort of presentations you've made, like a PowerPoint or, anything like that you can add pizzazz to your profile, definitely do that. Also, again, this goes back to what I said earlier, where I like to list paragraphs inside my profile rather than bullet points. Inside my experience section. Let me keep that straight, because again, in my summary, I like to use bullet points. I think it's okay to use, you want to have bullet points so that it breaks up that white space. Again, adding things like, for example, let me just click on this really quick. If I click on add profile section, I'm not sure if I've shown you guys this before. This is a whole section inside my World Class Career Academy course, but we walk through all the different sections that you can add to your LinkedIn profile. So you'll notice that I can add skills, I can add accomplishments, I can add additional information, supported languages, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of different things I can add to the profile to really make it stand out a little bit. And again, like I said earlier, LinkedIn makes it's not easy to even put bullet points into your profile. So you got to get a little bit creative with that. Okay, Kathy says, is it possible to not show your whole profile to everyone? Yes, Kathy. In fact, if you go to, let me think where you find that. If you go to your profile, settings and privacy, there is a section where you can actually I talk about this in my course as well. You go to the back end, I call it the back end of LinkedIn, and it allows you to turn certain sections on or off. Now, the cool thing about doing this is, let's say you're editing your summary and you want to be able to see what it looks like on your end, but you don't want others to see that you're trying to compose your paragraphs or whatever it might be. You can turn that off so no one can see it. Now, in terms of the whole profile, Kathy, I would say potentially, yes, you could do that. I'm not sure exactly where to find that. I know in the privacy and settings, it lets you do like one profile section at a time. So I would have to look into that for you, but thanks for asking. Good question. Okay, Sola asked, and then I'll just take a couple more, and feel free again, chime into the chat if you are still here with me live, or you're watching this as a recording. Chime into the chat and let me know what has been your biggest takeaway today. So what is the one thing that you really found solid that you know you can use and start applying today? I would love to know. Okay, so let me go back to Sola's question. What if all your experience has been on job and not formal education or training? That's okay. What you'll do is you'll beef up your work experience section. That's actually not a bad position to be in. You're just going to beef up your work experience section with all the awesome things that you've done. Good question. Okay, Robert, should you connect with people you don't know or never met? Oh, Robert, I love this question. I'm so glad you asked this. I have mixed feelings on this. So right now, if I were to go look at my LinkedIn profile, I want to say I have over 400 connection requests. And these are people I don't know. They're people I've never met. They're people that never customized a connection request to me. And so I'm so tempted to just say, okay, I want to connect with all of these people. But the thing that happens when you start doing that is that it really deteriorates the strength of your profile. So what it means that your connections are not strong. They're not strong connections. They're not solid connections. So really, the reason to connect with a person is to develop a relationship and to hopefully have them help you get to your end result, whatever that job might be. And when you're just connecting with anyone, it kind of waters down those relationships. So I have mixed feelings about that. I know that there are some experts out there that would probably recommend to to connect with people you don't know, find something in common with them and connect with those people first. Okay, I don't like the idea of just connect, because you can do that on LinkedIn, and I think it's very unauthentic. So good question. Philippa, and then I'm going to do Philippa, and then Daniel has a question. Philippa, do you think paying for premium LinkedIn is worth the money? Okay, I don't have a premium account. However, I'm not necessarily submerged in I'm not a job seeker, so I'm not job seeking. I do work with individuals that are job seeking. Some of them have premium accounts, some of them don't. And the advantage to a premium account is that you get to see more information about a job. So let's say, for example, you apply for a job and you're like, how well do I rate for that job? Am I like number 1 in this category of all the people on LinkedIn, or am I like number 10? LinkedIn Premium shows you all of that. So you actually get a little bit more ammunition, if you will, going forward into building your profile and to really figuring out what positions and where you stand in line for that position. It does add a lot of extra benefits. I haven't needed one. Some people would say they love it and that it is something that they've always used and that they will continue to pay for. So really, it's a personal choice. I'm gonna end it with that. It's kind of a personal choice. And if you are a job seeker and not seeing results, it might actually help you see results. Okay, Danielle says, how can I hide some of the stuff I'm following? Okay, so this is going to be in your interests section on LinkedIn. I also have a module inside of my course where I talk about this, where you can where you actually have companies that you're following, you just unfollow. So, let's say I followed Bill Gates or something, or Oprah or whatever, and then let's say I'm not interested in them anymore, or maybe there's groups that I followed months ago. You can go into your interest section on LinkedIn and unfollow them. And that kind of cleans it up as well. Okay. Let me add one more thing. So, Philippa, I noticed that you had a second question, and I think it's just the same. Would you pay for LinkedIn Premium? So, the other cool thing about the LinkedIn Premium is that it allows messaging to people outside your network. So, like if you wanted to be able to message someone like a recruiter, a hiring official, and you don't want to get, let's say you've used all your searches up on LinkedIn, it kind of bypasses that and it allows you to get in touch with people a little bit faster. So good question. You guys are awesome. I'm so happy that you stuck with me this whole entire time. We've had such a great time today. Now, I just want to make sure I remind you about tomorrow, how to interview with confidence and ease. This is one of the workshops that most of you requested. So we have some fantastic things to cover tomorrow, and I'm so excited. Hopefully you'll be joining me as well. And then again, we'll be here on Thursday and Friday, same time, same place. Thank you for everyone who was in the chat. Russ, Maxim, fantastic questions. Thanks, Danielle. Thanks, Cindy, Philippa. Oh, good luck, Dahlia. Love that. I love that. Russ, thank you for being here. Pamela, again, so happy you were here. My good friend Andy, thank you for hanging with me. And happy to hear you're heading into mile 6. Yay. Okay, so does that mean you're running? You might be running. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Anyway, thank you guys so much for being here. Again, my team and I are super appreciative that you spent this much time with us today. We will be back again tomorrow. Again, if you sign up for worldclasscareer.academy, you'll get a live stream replay page of all of these workshops. So it will be all on one page, nice and neat and ready for you to go. Okay, thanks you guys, and I will see you tomorrow.